I wish smoking wasn't so damn bad for you. It always looks so cool. So Black Lagoon. It's an oldie, but a damn goodie. It's one, much like with everything I've reviewed on this channel, it's been on my list forever. Well, I won't say forever. It's not one I've known about since the beginning of time or anything. It's one that I keep mixing up and I'm like, isn't it that 30s horror film? Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's one that I hear uttered in the same breath as like Cowboy Bebop, Trigun, Samurai Champloo, you know, that sort of vein, you know, gritty, noir, post-apocalyptic sort of spaghetti western style stuff. This one though, I never knew I needed something more in my life than when I met Revy. She's easily become top 3 anime characters. Period. Like, I'd say for my top 3 of all time, Vegeta, Kiritsugu Emiya, and Spike Spiegel. But Revy, anytime that girl is on screen. This whole video is just gonna be me talking about Revy unless I start talking about everything else of this show. I mean, to be fair, even the opening of Black Lagoon is entirely Revy until the last, like, 3 seconds of it. And it's like, oh yeah, these guys are in the opening as well. That opening, though, bro. That shot up to being one of my favorite. Like, Black Lagoon just in general, I think, has shot up to being one of my favorites, and it sucks because the story isn't over. Like, from what I know, the anime just stopped. There was the main series, obviously, the 25 episodes, and then they did the Roberta Blood Trail OVA series, but then after that, there's been nothing. But yeah, from what I've read, it's like the manga keeps going, and I haven't gone into the manga yet, because I don't really want to, because the anime is just such a vibe. I mean, not saying that there will ever be more, because it's hard to know if there ever really will be more, just because that show and series came out in a time when they were just barely on the cusp of hitting a point when things were becoming socially acceptable. I mean, at this point, who gives a fuck? Like, just, it's good, make it. It's just mainly the dub, because obviously, like, Japan doesn't give a shit. The dub of Black Lagoon, like, holy fuck, like, that's how I watched it, obviously, and that's how you honestly should watch it, because it is so unhinged. Again, just adding to why I fucking love Revy so much, because her voice actress is so good. It's funny just scrolling through her voice actresses, like, IMDb and whatnot. It's like, she's voiced, like, cartoon characters, like, she's voiced a lot of characters in, like, Johnny Test, My Little Pony, Little Pet Shop, Barbie. Surely that wasn't her first role, right? Okay, it doesn't look like it was, but what a role it was. Holy shit. It looks like it was her first, like, really big role. I mean, it's hard to really talk about Black Lagoon and not completely talk about Revy, because even though she's not technically the main character, she steals the entire show. I mean, if you're really looking at it, the story of Black Lagoon, it's mainly like Rock and Revy's story. I mean, the main story of Black Lagoon is just, like, going into it, it's a story you've more or less heard before. Everyday guy gets involved with this gang who's really part of, like, a smuggling trade and a mafia and whatnot, and, like, he gets involved with that, and then he slowly is just like, fuck my everyday life, I'm gonna be a part of this, and he sort of just is indoctrinated into that. And it's kind of interesting because it's not really seeing, like, the transformation of Rock, it's more seeing the downfall, I guess. And that's why I'm interested in seeing, the manga is, I imagine, done by now, right? It's been, what, this year will be 17 years since the anime was released? The anime never continued. It's surprising that the anime hasn't continued since 2011 despite the manga still running. So it's still ongoing? Holy fuck. It's been going since 2002, so since I was born. Apparently it's coming off hiatus according to a TikTok in November. So it's only been 12 volumes since 2002 and 2021. Okay, so it's due to, like, the author having depression and whatnot. You know, we're no stranger to manga and whatnot going on hiatus. But that's interesting. Now I really don't want to read the manga because it's not finished. Hard to say it'll ever really be finished. But either way, I only want to talk about the anime. Because even so, like, the anime, it kind of ends in a way in which it's like, you can see where the story ultimately probably would progress to. I mean, the whole time I was really waiting for Dutch to die because, you know, he's that kind of character. I mean, especially coming off watching Cyberpunk Edgerunners, which pretty much, Edgerunners is kind of like a spiritual successor to Black Lagoon in a way. It's like, you know, you have that typical team. You got the rough, gruff, big leader, you got the nerdy hacker, you got the awesome gunslinger girl, and then you have, like, our main guy. Like, you figure at one point Dutch is gonna die because you know, that's usually how that goes in the story. But in the anime, it's like no one dies on the main team. It just mainly is like that kind of Cowboy Bebop kind of story where it's like a couple one-off stories and adventures they go on, but for the most part, going into the bulk of the story, it's a lot of big story arcs, like following them going on the different stories. There's of course like the twins, there's the Nazi submarine, the big Japan ending story arc, which is obviously, like, for me, that was the best one. I'd say overall my favorite episode, fuck it, spoilers. My favorite episode overall was, I think it was either the second to last one or the third to last episode, where Revi and the samurai dude just go into that bowling alley and just clean house with all the goons. Yeah, because that's the thing about Revi. She will kill as easily as she breathes. I am not calling her my best waifu, because she is not waifu. She doesn't fit into any of that, and that's maybe why I like her so much, is because she just pretty much is like, kill first, ask questions later. It's like, she was close to killing Rock in the first episode, and then even the fifth-ish episode. That's just the bulk of Black Lagoon, just the story between Revi and Rock. The whole kind of, it's like, is it a romance? It's like, I mean, yeah, it is, but it's a story where you can see where it's going, where it's like Rock comes from this world, just like a normal everyday world, and Revi comes from the slums where she's just become this awesome badass killer, you know, with a very sad and tragic backstory, where it's like both of them get a taste of each other's world, and they're slowly sort of like meeting in the middle when they interact. Like towards the end of the story, you can see them like progressing more towards switching, especially in the Roberta Trail OVA story. It's like Rock in that is so addicted. Like obviously throughout the whole story, he never directly kills anybody. Like he's becoming addicted to like having a good plan coming together. Like my favorite scene still is like in that series where the two kids, like one's talking to Revi, one's talking to Rock, and you can see just how much Revi's rubbed off on Rock to the point where like he's smiling like her, he's talking like her. Like even like at one point I think Dutch notices like Rock says something, like he doesn't say it, but I bet in his head it's like, why does he sound like Revi? Like even though obviously the story isn't finished yet, you can sort of figure it out for yourself, like where the story would go. Like I feel like it would ultimately get to a point where maybe Rock is about to kill somebody and maybe Revi stops him. You know, that would be, you know, an ultimate like flip of the whole story. Like, is the Black Lagoon story a romance story overall? No, it is not. Could it ultimately be a thing of Rock and Revi getting together? Maybe. Overall, the whole main plot is just mafia. Like, especially going into my second favorite character, Miss Balalaika. Do not mess with the Russian mafia, especially when they're non-veterans. Just that whole twin story. You really got to see just Balalaika, just what she's capable of and just how scary she is. It's like there are points in the story where it's like they kind of go against her, but for the most part you're rooting for them just to be like, you guys are good, but don't mess with her. Like I definitely foresee maybe some point in the story Revi fighting her, Revi versus Balalaika, because Revi is definitely in some parts Saiyan because she obviously really craves a good fight, especially going into the end where she sees the samurai guy cut a bullet in half and then she's just like, I want that. I just love how they portray Revi. Like when she's just normal, just not killing, she just has like, you know, normal just eyes, but whenever she's in kill mode it just goes into like the flat, just no shine in the eyes, just. And it's cool seeing Rock at the end. It's like you sort of see him starting to get those eyes. Just overall, the world of Black Lagoon, Roanapur, just that whole city, it's a great vibe. And unfortunately, I don't think there will ever be, one, there will never be a show like Black Lagoon ever again. And two, there will never probably be more of Black Lagoon. I mean, at some point, maybe. Obviously, the anime may continue, but I don't think it'll ever be the same. Because one, the dub voices by now, I mean, another thing is cool, Rock's dub voice is Light from Death Note. Like, obviously, you get the same voice actors, but, you know, it's been a long time. But also, it's like, I don't know if the script would be the same. It's hard to know. Of course, I would love for there to be more. It's just hard to know if it'd ever be the same, especially with the animation and art. It's like, it still has, like, that grain, like, just enough of that grain, that grittiness. I don't know, but Black Lagoon absolutely has shot up to being one of my favorites of all time. I absolutely recommend it to you if you love any sort of that like dark, gritty, noir style of story. I'm definitely not, anytime I talk about a story like Cowboy Bebop, Fate Zero, Samurai Champloo, Trigun, Black Lagoon, I love it all. So overall, what would I give Black Lagoon? 10 out of fucking 10, obviously. I cannot recommend it enough. Even though I've obviously spoiled some stuff and whatnot, you can still enjoy it. Either way, this was my review of Black Lagoon. Join me for many other reviews that I plan on posting. Gameplay, reactions, all coming soon. So until next time, I'm Lancer. Thanks for watching.